This episode is sponsored by First Home Mortgage. Even if I knew I was going to 100% die at a certain age, there's nothing I can do that's going to make that any longer. If I knew I could smoke 6 packs a day, it doesn't matter. Nothing I could do is going to make me live a day longer. I'd still do it. And I think I want the quality of life, not just the years. I want to feel in control of the time I have. And I want to, I think I'm youthful for my age, and I want to stay that as I progress through the decade.
Yeah, I mean, that's the total quality time left, right? You want to make sure that you can do the things you want to do for as long as you want to do them.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Rhine on All Roads Lead to Real Estate. And so today I have a guest, and it's a different guest for me because, to be honest, I have not had anyone in this field that I've ever spoken to. So feel honored, because you should be, because I am honored to have you.
Well, I'm honored then.
And so what I wanted to do is highlight someone. So if you're in this Baltimore County area, I think it might be interesting to learn about your particular business. And so you are a recent franchise owner of the gym that I go to. I'd like to say, I think you guys call it a founding member.
You are a founding member.
So I'm a founding member. I'm one of the first. As soon as I saw your sign go up, I immediately put my name in, and so I'll tell you all about that. But your particular business that you are a franchise owner of is Alloy Personal Training, and it's your location that you have currently is in Towson, Maryland. And so I have so many questions, Bill. So this is Bill McKenzie. And so once again, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
So obviously I just want to start off by giving you an idea as to why I wanted you here in the first place, because you're a business owner that I found to be a little bit interesting in the sense that you have a traditional job, right? You have a career. And you work a lot of hours. You just got done telling me you work 50 plus hours a week on your day job. And you are crazy enough to join us in the entrepreneurship world. And you went down this path of personal training in Alloy. It's a very successful brand. And so I did a little homework on you. I don't want to talk too much about it yet, but I had a recent guest on franchises, and he's helped thousands of people with franchises. He knows everything about Alloy. He's helped lots of people get into that brand. And so he had nothing but great things. Otherwise, I would not mention it. But he had wonderful things to say about Alloy. So I just wanted to start and just give everybody a little bit of a general background as to who you are. And then we're going to work up a little bit into why you're crazy enough to start this franchise, this gym, and get into this space.
Sounds great.
So you're not from Maryland originally, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I grew up in New Jersey. Lived there till I was I went through high school there, came to Johns Hopkins, and managed to meet my wife just as I was about to graduate, and started to think about moving back home to New Jersey, but kept getting pulled back here to spend time with her, and then eventually made the decision to live here. And we've been together, and we'll be married 25 years in June.
Wow, so. 25 years.
Yeah.
That's something. That's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope to get there one day. We're not
It's really impressive for her putting up with me more than it is impressive for me.
It's more impressive, I can say now, the longer I'm married. It's just impressive just because of how much you go through.
For sure.
It is not something when you're newlywed you fully understand.
100%.
So good news there. So you had the Hopkins experience, and so what have you been doing recently? I'd say in the last 5 or 10 years for a career. So you were in corporate America, right?
So traditionally called revenue operations or sales operations. I started my career in sales. Much like you did. So when you were in the pharmaceutical industry and working in farm sales, they would have probably had something called sales ops. It's evolved over the years to revenue operations. But I started my career in sales and sort of worked in every type of sales job. I was a sales manager, sales trainer, every type of sales job you can have, and eventually found that where I really enjoy is that intersection between sales and operations, where I look at things like how do we make our reps to be more successful through changing and optimizing their sales systems, tools, and processes. So everything from their compensation plan to how many reps do we put into a marketplace to how big's their territory, to what CRM system do we use? How do we configure it to optimize our reps' performance?
And how many years in total have you been doing that?
Probably close to 30.
Wow.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I've been in the same industry, and that includes all the sales time. Probably in sales operations, revenue operations, probably about 15 years.
Got it. And so what I'm always most interested in, and one of the reasons I had someone recently on, like I mentioned, that went through in great detail why people get into the franchise world. And so I'm an entrepreneur. I started in my early 20s, and you start with just me, right? I'm a small business owner. It was just me. I'm my worst employee. I make a joke, but it's true. I work my tail off, but I am also my worst employee. I allow myself sometimes way too much latitude and forgiveness than I always say, specifically on the CEO level, because when you work by yourself, you're the janitor, you're the receptionist, you're the salesperson, and the CEO. You're all the things.
That's right.
And so you wear different hats. And so I wear some hats better than others. Sales is my gift. That's what I'm good at. And the rest is I'm learning, right? And trying to grow. So when I see that you've had longevity in a career path, I'm always interested to find out, why would you be crazy and or brave enough to try to seek something outside of that? So you didn't give up the job, but you added to it.
So what kind of happened there was I worked for the same company, minus 2 years for about 25 years, which is kind of rare these days. And then I got laid off.
Yeah.
And that was a pivotal moment. And you stop and think, well, how do I change this from something that happened to me to something that happened for me? How do I make this, look back on it and go, wow, I'm so glad that happened, versus, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Yeah. And so really stopped and said, okay, what do I want to do? And I kind of took parallel paths. I looked at both, should I go into a corporate job again and search for that? And then I also was looking at franchises at the same time.
Right.
Eventually I decided on, let's do both. I really do enjoy my corporate job. I find it very challenging and exciting. And so I love that piece of it, and it's intellectually stimulating. But at the same time, I also had always had a dream to start my own business. I read my first franchise book when I was 17 years old. Wow. So it's been on my mind for a long time. And, I think for a lot of people, it's true. You think, I'd really like to start a business, but I'm not sure what I want to do. Sure. Like, what business would that be? And so that little bit of time gave me a chance to really dig into that question and go very deep in trying to, and I worked with a franchise consultant, like it sounds like your friend was. And I dug into that to really understand, like, what would be interesting to me, what would be useful and helpful to the community, but also that I would enjoy.
Yeah. And that's, I think, a challenge. And what I hear there is that it sounds like you might have chosen the stability, and you leveraged your experience to continue the income, right? And the stability. Is that part of it, in addition to something that's completely new? Is that because when I went into real estate, I was in real estate since I was 21, but I never had the courage to go full time because I wanted the stability of a corporate job. And it wasn't until about 7 or 8 years in that I have the courage to switch. Is that something you're considering? Maybe one day, as you continue to grow potentially the franchise business, would you ever consider giving up the day job?
I don't think so. No. I think that they provide and fulfill me in two different ways. So it's at the corporate job, I spend a lot of time really on very, unique problems at scale. Right. We're talking about 500 sales reps. How do I, optimize their performance? Whereas, when we're talking about the gym, we have 4 employees. Yeah. Right. And so it's really about developing those employees, helping them, doing things that I maybe never did before, like payroll or something like that. So there's new challenges, to your point. You're always learning, but it's a very different feel. Right. So I like the combination of both.
Right. Well, that's it. That's encouraging and refreshing. It can beat you down. I'll tell you, the hardest part of my job, especially as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, it's people. It's the management of others. It's the recruiting of talent. It's the ability to keep them, motivate them, train them. It's like, that's the biggest challenge for me. And maybe it'll be hopefully not as daunting, but it's challenging. And I will give you credit because I'm one of your customers that the folks that you've had there are good. You have not had a dud yet. And so there's been a few, like you said, I think you have 4 employees. And so I know how challenging it must be in general. And so especially in that space. So I'm curious about ultimately why, it sounds like I have an idea now as to why you chose to get into franchising and keep your day job. So it wasn't just the stability. That was my gut instinct there. So, but why did you choose ultimately the gym space and personal training space? Because there are so many other options.
Yeah. And in fact, it's kind of funny, when I worked with my franchise consultant, I said, anything but food and gyms. Yeah. Those are the only 2 things I said I didn't want.
Yeah. That's interesting. Why would you? I know food makes sense. Those would have a fail rate of 70%, or it's just horrible. It's terrible. Yeah. But what about, I don't know if the gym space, to me, that sounds potentially like a safer space. Yeah,
it wasn't even that. It was just the transactional nature of it.
Okay.
Right? It was very like, in my head, a gym was kind of somebody who, they make money when you don't show up. Right. And that
you
just
have
didn't
8
feel
treadmills
like
for 700 members.
Yeah. And what we really, were looking for was something that was very relationship based. And so Alloy, we typically try to limit our member count to about 150, give or take. Right. Which sounds crazy when you think about a business model that says don't go above 150-ish. Yeah. You're like, why would you do that? Right. But that's at a level where we can maintain relationships with all of those people and really get to know everybody and really help them achieve their goals. And what turned me around was when the franchise consultant started to talk about the retention numbers. As a franchise, I think we have 95, 96% retention, and our goals are higher than that.
Higher than 95%?
Yes, that's our goal. We're not quite there yet, but we're on our way. And, when we think about that all the time, that's the problem. We're constantly thinking about how do we make sure that, we give the members incredible value, help them achieve their goals and get there, so that we don't lose people. And it takes a little while to find your tribe and, build it up. But ultimately, that's what attracted me, because I understood once I saw that retention number, I said, okay, that has to be relationship based. That has to be the kind of business I want to be in. And, and it's doing a good thing for the community. That's the other big piece of it, right? You want to do something that feels good, right? Like, how can I help other people? And this feels really good. We're really had some great success stories in helping people to achieve their fitness goals.
Well, and so one of the purposes here of this podcast is, yes, I'm very interested in the business aspect, as I'll pepper you with questions because that's how my mind works. But I also want to highlight the actual business in which you run because, like I said, I'm a member of it. And I used to be a member of one of your competitors. It's called Fitness Together. Mm-hmm. So I certainly won't bash them, but I was a member there for several years. And so I'm sure are you familiar? Did you research there? So for those that don't know, Fitness Together, or FT, is another option. And that was one-on-one training. And so for someone like myself, I think I started with them when I was in my early 30s. And for me, I did it specifically because I needed the accountability. I have a million things to do. I'm busy. I really don't want to work out. I don't. But I want the effects. I love it when I'm done. Right. I just don't want to go. And if I had a traditional gym membership, I wouldn't go anywhere near like I should. I'm not consistent. And so this was my avenue. Fitness Together is much more expensive. For those that don't know, it's one-on-one, whereas what you're offering, Alloy, allows you to have groups of, on average, it's between 4 and 6 people during my class. So you still have one trainer for a small group, and they still come over to you. They still make sure you're not, going crazy. I find, this is one of the things I wanted to mention to you, and I'm sure you know this, but I like the competitive nature of it. I like to see someone else over there that's doing their 8th set, and I want to do it. And I can tell you, I don't stop for an hour straight. If I went to the gym tomorrow, there's no way I'd work out for an hour straight without taking breaks. Right. I'd be on my phone. I'd be doing this. I'd be doing the other thing. So I think it's such a value for that reason for me to show up, and the cost is way less than personal training. It's a fraction. Yeah. So for me, it's all of that. And I have to say, for those, I'm over 40 now. That's the target market I would imagine. This is not for, the muscle heads. I mean, I know you think I'm jacked. I'm not. But that's a joke, people. I have, if you were in this room, you would know that's a joke. I am definitely not ripped. But it's definitely for those that want to live and have mobility And I want functionality in life. That's what I see for it. I'm not, I just don't want to be embarrassed when I take off my shirt, not necessarily be ripped like I wanted to be in high school. So what's your target demo that you see? I mean,
you nailed it, right? It's people over 40 that are looking for, that accountability. They're looking for the coaching, how to do something safely, right? And the variety. Every day is a different workout. One thing I noticed that's very different, I was pretty good about being disciplined about my working out, but I did what I like to do. Right. So think bench press, curls, that kind of thing. And then when I work out at Alloy, they have me doing full body workouts that I really need, to your point, for functional fitness over the rest of my life. So I can do the things I want to do for as long as I want to do them.
You mean it's not your sixth consecutive bicep day?
Correct. Exactly. Or my favorite chest day. Right. Yeah. So, I think that's another big differentiator. And I agree with you. I love working out in a small group and you're still getting that coaching, but I love the little bit of, for me, the competitiveness comes out as well. And then I think for a lot of people, it's the community. They build some friendships, they develop relationships. And now I want to show up not just because, I paid for it and I have an appointment, but because I can't wait to see my friends and get in there with them. And that drives people to show up, because ultimately we're the inverse of a gym where they make more money when you don't show up. We only make money when you show up, right? So we are obsessed with making sure that people are accountable and that they're coming to the gym and that they're achieving their goals, because that's how we make our long-term money, which is that high retention rate.
Well, and it's funny that you mention the community and the friendship part, because I can see that that's kind of forming with me as well. And I enjoy it, and it's every walk of life. And we all represent different pockets of the community, and we have people in healthcare. We have people that I have an attorney that I always work out with in the morning, and these are people I would never normally hang out with. Right? We're all busy, like we all have families. Like there would be no reason for us probably to ever see each other, and yet you make these relationships because you're put in a kind of a interesting situation where you're sweating and going, I'm there at 5:55 in the morning. Yep. So it's an unusual setting. And I'll just, as a side note to that, it's just, you see all the craziness online and how everybody hates each other and it's all one side against the other. It's really interesting. We talk about weird things when you're working out with people, and everyone's politically different. Everyone's so different, yet when you're in that environment, everyone's so supportive.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention
You're going through something together, right? It's not easy.
We like talk about the headlines. We're talking about what we just read, and it's like, these are people that, trust me, we would not all vote the same way. And yet we have civilized conversations working out, and it's just, I think that's interesting that if people were just on social media, people would be doing nasty, snarky comments, but face to face when you're together in that setting, it's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's always something to going through tough times together, right? It bonds people together, and it's everybody's working out safely, but it's a tough workout, and it's individualized enough that it's going to be tough for everybody there, right? No matter where you are in your fitness journey, it's going to be hard for you.
Right. No, they make it hard on me, so they add it to it. I like it because I'm in my early 40s, so I'm like the young buck, and so they put it to me. So I kind of like that. I've never been the top of the class in the physique department, so it makes me feel pretty good.
There you go. I love it.
So there we go. So all right. So I want to get back a little bit to the business side of this. So I mean, what other options had you considered before you went down this path? Were there other franchises? Because I'm keenly interested in this, because I have people that come to me to invest their money.
Sure.
And so you could have easily have met me prior to this and say, Matt, I have some capital. I want to deploy it and get residual income. Because that's essentially what this is, right? You're not a owner-operator.
Right.
So this is not completely hands-off, but, more hands-off than an owner-operator.
Correct.
So what made you go to this route? I mean, are there a couple others that you were considering?
Oh, yeah, we looked at a lot. I mean, I looked at probably, research at a high level, probably 40 to 50, and then probably deep dive on 8 to 10 and seriously considered 2 or 3. The one I was probably most excited about and looked at a lot was around, testosterone and as kind of a male clinic, mental health clinic that dealt with, GLP-1s, testosterone. So it was in the health space.
There is something right in Timonium that would be your competitor there, right?
Yeah, Life Med Institute is very similar in that regard.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So that would have been a big competitor to us in that regard. But it just wasn't the right fit. A lot of this came down to good conversations with my wife. We would take long walks and talk about things. And, she just didn't feel good about that. That wasn't, something. And she works full time at the gym. So you've probably run into her occasionally, although she's not there at the 6 a.m. slot.
Yeah, I don't see her in the morning.
Yeah, she comes in a little bit later than that. But yeah, she wasn't feeling that at all. And the more we just looked at it, it just didn't feel like us, right? And again, we really wanted something that was going to be relationship-based in the community. We've been here a pretty long time. She grew up here. She went to Towson High School, and there's so many great connections. Sure. One of our members was her next door neighbor growing up, right? So it's all these little tiny connections, and I love that. I love the small to more feel. I love talking to people and realizing like, our kids went to this together, or they did this, or we know similar people. That's the great thing about living here, right?
Yeah,
people don't leave; they stay forever, and
it's weird like that. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. So and in that community, you want to make sure you're doing something that you feel really good about, right? Because everybody, and you want to make sure that you're representing yourself and your family the best you can, and you want to make sure that you feel good, that what you're delivering to the marketplace is something that people will take advantage of, but also feel really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't sign up with the intention of not improving ourselves.
Right.
And so that to me helps. I think that I still can't believe your 95% or better retention rate, but I think it's because you get to know people and you feel obligated to go. That's why I sign up.
Yeah.
I want to feel obligated, and I've never missed. Not a single time I think one time I was in Disney World. Outside of that, I've never missed.
Right.
So, and I don't want to always get up, but I do it in the morning. This is a gym hack for those that don't know this. I do it first thing because you have no excuses that early.
Right.
I'm set my alarm for this purpose, therefore I must leave.
Yeah.
So that's my hack. If I do it in the afternoon, I have 50 things that I could do that's not that, and I won't go.
Yeah, and things come up that are urgent and that you feel like you have to, but at 6 a.m. there's probably not that many.
And I feel like I win. I don't know. I think there's a book out there, at least there's enough clips of it out there in terms of this general mentality. It's like you want to start the day off with a win. Yeah. It's one of the reasons you're supposed to make your bed in the morning.
Right.
Because that's one thing you can check off the list I've accomplished for the day so far.
Right. Yep.
And so for me, getting there, it's one thing.
Yeah, and a big thing.
It's a big thing. And now the clientele that you're attracting, of course, is 40 and older. And mobility is real, and weight resistance is exceptionally important. I married a dietitian who is a distance runner. She's a crazy, runner. She were actually next door to you is Charm City Run, and she works there part-time. She loves it. It's not a very lucrative part-time job, but she does it because she loves it. That's her, that's her community.
Right.
And so, but she is incorporating resistance training now, because especially for women, not just men, but women need this, especially as they get older. I mean, we all need it, but I think specifically my wife is always trying to get into it because she needs to balance out all these miles she's running.
That's right. And the investment we make today pays off over the next 10 years and even more, right? Yep. And so, if you think back, right, when probably the generation before us, when they thought about strength training, they thought of bodybuilders and athletes. Yeah. And that was it, right? So, my parents, my grandparents would have never thought, I need to go strength train, right? That wasn't something they thought about, but it's so incredibly important, and then you think about your parents, your grandparents, and maybe they struggled to get out of a chair. Yeah. Right. And, they had needed help up, or you can't sit in that one, it's too low. And now we understand the value of strength training and how that can make those later years so much more enjoyable and just make it easier. My wife's mother, my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, works out with us, and she's 80. She just turned 80 over the weekend, and she's doing so much better, and she's so much stronger, and she's able to walk better, and that empowers her to do more travel and things like that.
Yeah, it's not purely longevity. I think that might have been how I think that's how I thought of living a longer life. It's not necessarily the number of years. I've thought about why I have always been consistent working out, and I don't think, even if I knew I was going to 100% die at a certain age, there's nothing I can do that's going to make that any longer, whatever age that is. Would I still want to work out between now and then? If I knew I could smoke 6 packs a day, it doesn't matter. Nothing I could do is going to make me live a day longer. I'd still do it. And I think I want the quality of life, not just the years. I want to feel in control of the time I have. And I want to, I think I'm youthful for my age, and I want to stay that as I progress through the decades.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the total quality time left, right? You want to make sure that you can do the things you want to do for as long as you want to do them.
Right.
And then I also think, one thing that hit me when you were talking about that is just how much the mental health aspect of it hits me all the time. Like, I do work a lot of crazy hours, and corporate life can be stressful, and this is my de-stress time. This, definitely has a big impact on my mental health and relieving stress. And I think that's a big win for it as well. Like, why would you do it even if you knew you had a set lifespan? That would be the 2 reasons. One, quality of life. And then secondly, like just the impact it has on your stress levels and your enjoyment of everyday life.
Well, I think it's a way I feel a little bit more in control. I feel, I don't know, I feel I'm doing something that could better myself. I also work like a crazy human. I think you mentioned I don't have other hobbies.
Right.
So my work is my hobby. And I think being, active, like I really dislike running, but I still do that. Really, I owe that to my wife. But I want to be physically active. And I think we're becoming more aware of it. I don't know if your gym would have done well 30 years ago. I don't know if it was that, like you said, it was mostly you go there to get huge, right? You're like,
yeah, and we actually did, the franchise started in 1992.
Yeah.
But I think it evolved a lot over those years to, kind of figure out the right, customer avatar and figure that out. So, but to your point, they probably had a different clientele as they first started.
65 or 75 nowadays a lot different? What you feel a 70-year-old can do and act and sound like is very different than I think when I was a child thinking of a 70-year-old. That might as well have been 150.
Right. Well, and also as I get closer to it, it seems that much
Isn't
younger.
that funny how that works?
Yeah. Now that I'm 53, 60's very young.
60's young, but it kind of is these days.
Yes, that's true.
And there's a lot of hacks. I mean, they're one of the supplements I have just started taking this year is creatine.
Yes.
And I assume that was for crazy weightlifters. And then you do some more research and realize that supplement is actually very safe. It's one of the most studied supplements ever. And now I'm on just a standard, 5 grams a day, 1 scoop.
Yep.
And do green drink. I do a whole assortment of things. I'm attempting, but is that one of the supplements? I wanted to ask you what type of supplementation that you recommend based on your research. I imagine it sounds like you've done some research on this.
Yeah, we definitely believe in creatine, to your point. It is very well studied and is a great choice. The biggest thing
cognitive benefits as well.
Yeah, the one we focus on probably more than anything is the protein.
Okay.
What we're finding is that just, within our population, people probably don't get enough protein, right? And we're trying to build muscle, right? So as you know, one of the things that we do is in-body analysis, where each of our members, we look at, we have a very, very fancy scale that understands exactly what your fat percentage is, your muscle mass is, your water weight.
Right.
And we're looking at that so that we have a baseline and we can measure improvement. And so we're looking to build that muscle mass and reduce the fat. And so part of that is making sure that people get enough protein. That's usually the biggest gap. So making sure that either they can get it through their natural diet, or whether it's protein bars or supplements with, protein shakes. But that's where, we find a lot of people are falling short, is not getting enough protein.
Well, and one of the questions I had for you is, I definitely agree there. And I have actually purchased, I think, what's the world of that? I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's Transparent Labs, I believe, is the brand that someone on your staff recommended to me. And so I've enjoyed that so far. But one thing about your gym is you don't have any cardio equipment, I realized. Is that are there cardio equipment in any of these Alloy Fitness gyms, or is this where you have a very set mission and it's not like you need to do that elsewhere?
We do have the 2 attack bikes, so we kind of have a little bit of cardio, right? Because we'll do that in, little increments, right?
Those are like burst. We incorporate that into...
Correct. That's right.
Yes.
And so, do you get cardio from it? Yes, because of the format, right, where you're doing the supersets, and like you said, you're always moving.
You should mention the supersets, because that is I think that's very unique the way you do it. So let's lead us into that real quick, and then let's go back to the cardio.
So a superset means that you're going to work 2 exercises back to back, and usually you can do them, complementary or the opposite. We tend to do different ones. So what's happening is when you finish, a set of, let's say, for example, you might be doing a shoulder press, then we might move you into a lunge.
Yeah.
Right. And so the shoulder press is working your shoulders. And now while your shoulders are resting, we're still keeping you moving because now you're doing the lunge.
Yeah.
And then you go back and do the shoulder. And we put some other rest periods in there, but that's getting that heart rate up during the workout. Right. So we're really working on efficiency, right? We work out for about 50 to 55 minutes typically. So we want to pack that 50 to 55 minutes because our customers are like you. They're very busy. They got to fit this in. They want to come in. They want to get in shape. They want to have a good time, but they don't have a ton of time. Right. And so we need to be very, very efficient in our programming to make sure that they're going to optimize their results in the shortest amount of time period possible.
I think that's really interesting. I had not experienced the way you format it through this business, which is just like you said, it's a superset. You go and you coach to, this is the 2 superset activities you need to do. You demonstrate them, and if there's limitations for that particular person for whatever reason, they had shoulder surgery or whatever it is, you make personal recommendations based on that need, and then you let us roll, and then they go to the next person and make sure there's 3 sets of these happening simultaneously, and you rotate. When you do your, let's say, 4 sets of whatever that superset is, you go to the next station, and then you do that, and that's how you cycle through.
That's right.
And you basically have a partner. Yeah. So you get paired off, and that's sometimes you switch partners, and that's how you get to know people, because it's you and that person fighting through that exercise. Yeah.
And what's amazing is their ability, the trainer's ability to do what they would call a progression or a regression. Right. So if you're somebody like you that's been working out and is doing a really good job, they're going to make it harder. They're going to progress it.
Yep.
And then the crazy thing is when you partner with somebody, a lot of times they're similar to you, but not always. Just depends on the clientele that day. But they can be working out right beside you and doing something that's similar but different, and it's regressed for them to meet them where they are.
Right.
So while the workout looks somewhat similar, they could be doing a completely different workout than you at the same time, based on where they are and what that trainer's adjusting for them.
Right. Yeah, I call it like a judgment-free zone. It's very different than a traditional, I will say my father-in-law's in his 80s, and he's worked out virtually every day of his entire adult life. He's in phenomenal shape, better shape than I am, and he can still do the not the Ironman, but what's that thing they do at the box? The Murph.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
for CrossFit.
CrossFit workout.
So
Murph. Yep.
He's in his 80s doing CrossFit. So he can still do it. It's pretty crazy. But it's every walk of life. So it's not a judgment zone. Like the reason I mentioned him is he still goes to the old school gym because he loves that crazy, very, I would say judgmental, where they have huge heavy weights lined up and they're throwing the barbells down.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable because I can't lift, 120 pound bench press. On each hand. I can't do all that. He loves it. He still gets a rise out of that. But in this situation, totally different. And I think for people that are on the fence, I think this is a model. You could start tomorrow and be out of shape as all can be, haven't worked out in 30 years. You could still get started. And it's not, I think that's unique, and it's going to probably prompt you to actually show up and do it.
Yeah, and I think the other key to that is doing it safely, right? I've been lifting weights since high school, played sports in high school and college. And then, later in life, probably took some time off that I should have never taken off, but I did, and then came back to it. And so I've been at this for a really long time, and I can't tell you how many times one of the trainers will correct something that I've been doing wrong for years.
Yeah.
Years. And I'm like, wait, no. And they're like, yeah, that's completely wrong. Do it this way.
Yeah. And that's how you can hurt yourself. And
yeah,
I will say, I didn't want to bash fitness together earlier, but I will bash the CrossFit. I did that for a while. That is the craziest. My sister loves it, so I don't want to bash it too hard. She does love it, and she loves her group, but they don't teach anything about fitness. At least my group didn't. They let you go wild out there, and I was injured twice in 6 months because they do kipping. You don't even do proper pull-ups, for example. Right. Everything is backwards. It's speed.
Yes.
And so you go as fast as you can to accomplish these things. You're racing. So I don't know. I know there's lots of people that love it, so I don't want to hate on it if you're out there loving it. But dude, you do you. I could just tell you, for me, I felt like it was too risky for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's a big difference, right? I've done CrossFit. I liked it. I actually probably had a similar story where I wound up, I officially snapped my first Achilles tendon playing rugby, but ultimately I felt it start to get wonky at CrossFit previously, and I was like, oh, it feels a little weird, and I should have paid more attention. And then I went and played rugby over the weekend,
and that'll do it.
There it went.
That'll do it. Well, interesting. Well, all right. Well, I promise I want to get back to the business side of things because I know that you know your numbers. So one of the things, as I was doing my homework here, that's unique, in my opinion, to this, most gym franchises are going to try to get as many members as possible, right? That's the scalability. What's the one that's $10 a month or $20 a month?
Oh, like Planet Fitness.
Like Planet Fitness. Yeah. You have 10,000 members for 12 treadmills, right?
Right.
And so that's not your model. And so what was interesting, that the gentleman who was giving me the information about your franchise, that they have a very smaller footprint they want you to identify. Yes. Square footage is very much, they don't want it too large.
Yeah.
And they don't want it tiny, but it has to be the right size that you can control and maintain and have the correct margin. And you can't have too many people. They won't allow you to have 500 members.
That's right.
Even if you're a greedy business owner and want to maximize it, sorry, that won't work. And I was just, they have a formula, it sounds like they figured out. And I think that's maybe why you chose a franchise, is because they know the model.
That's right.
And you just implement. Is that more or less correct?
Yes, I think so. Although, yeah, I mean, everything you just said is exactly right. As far as the only thing I think about a little bit that's interesting is they are really good about giving us a little bit of freedom. Because I think the interesting thing in franchising that I learned from my consultant, and she actually had me do a personality test to see which would be the right franchises for me. And what I needed was enough structure, but a little bit of freedom to try things and change things. And they're really good about giving us just a little bit of room to do things. I'm wearing, a shirt today with, Baltimore with the Alloy logo. They allow us to do things like that. Whereas, some franchises would be very, very strict to say, like, you have to have full approval to use our logo anywhere. So that's kind of the example. But when it comes to your point, to the programming, the way we build our business, the fact that, we're going to limit our number of members to build relationships, the way we do everything, that's all exactly like you said. They've been doing it since 1992. They have it down. They've kind of really invented this concept. Yeah. And so, we do our best to listen to them and do exactly what they tell us. And so from a business perspective, I'm looking around at the gym. I'm like, you don't have all the cardio equipment that a traditional gym would have. You have everything you have, it's brand new, right? So everything's beautiful and new, but it's a limited floor space. So I'm looking at the hard cost associated with this. It's fixed and you can amortize it over a certain amount of time. And you have a lease, which stinks. I heard you, when we were doing a pre-interview, you were describing your experience with a commercial lease. Welcome to real estate. Yes. It's not exactly joyous. And I have a place, a commercial space right next to yours in the building adjacent to yours. Yes. Same company. I know all about who you're dealing with over there. But still, that's a challenge. But I thought it was fascinating because you have very fixed cost, and your model, the way it was described, is designed by the time you open your doors, you are already profitable. Is that a fair assessment? Yes, although, as you know, we did, the one thing that puts a little wrinkle into that at first is, we did offer a pretty substantial discount to our founding members, right? So
is it sad? I have no idea what I pay.
Yeah.
I don't even know that.
Yeah. So we did do a founding members discount because somebody's got to take a chance on you, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't know what you were getting yourself into, right? Like, and we're telling you what it's going to be, but you didn't get a chance to experience it really yourself until, we opened our doors. So, to account for that, we gave a nice discount on that. We were about break even to start.
Okay.
So yeah, right where, they kind of said we would be.
Okay.
Give or take, here and there each month, as you spend more to do this or change something. But and we've tried a lot of different things, to see how we can optimize. We're constantly thinking about those things. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, it's exactly how they laid it out, and they gave us the instructions, and we had to go execute it.
Well, it seems like your variable cost, it's really your employees, right? Which is very fixed. You can't have, it's not big enough. You can't have 3 employees at once. Right. So I don't know. I enjoyed the idea of the model. That's, as a business person, I just thought that was a really interesting approach to do.
The big cost is in the marketing, right? That's the big variable. Right.
Now,
so
my guy that was discussing this said you're very upfront, like a lot of marketing goes on in the beginning couple months.
Yes.
But then it kind of trails off. Is that
eventually, right? Yeah. So once you hit 150 members, since that's the cap, you certainly don't need to be spending a ton on marketing at that point. And when you think about a 95% retention on 150 members, you're replacing, 7 members, 7 members a month. And
eventually
so
you have a waiting list.
Right? Yeah, you don't need to overspend in marketing. But to get to that first 150, that's where you're going to make a substantial investment in marketing. So yeah, the big variable costs, right? So you've got the real estate's a fixed cost, but that's a high number for us. The cost of our employees, we do bonuses. Okay. So ultimately, that is a slightly variable cost, but kind of what you're in for there. The big one is the marketing. Continue to make Meta and Google more rich than they were.
I was going to say, where do you find success in marketing? Because I write all those checks too, but in real estate is obviously different than yours. So where do you find? I mean, do they give you a playbook and say, this is what works? Like they probably give you the exact ads to probably run, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, and they've worked with a lot of different ad agencies. So we have an ad agency that they hooked us up with. My background does lean into that stuff, right? So the companies I've worked for sell marketing to small businesses. So they have, I've had a reasonable sense of it. What we're trying to do is supplement and complement the things that we do online with things that we do locally, right? Yeah. So my wife and our GM will oftentimes be at the Towson Farmers Market. We had a great time at Towson Town Festival, right? And we're trying to be involved in the community. We've sponsored a lot of stuff with the local schools, anything like that that's complementary, because again, we're so community-based, and those things feel good when we can do something that helps the community and gets our name out there at the same time. Right. So we're trying to complement the online marketing that you kind of have to do at this point with the local stuff that, is better for everybody.
Well, what I'd like to suggest, and I thought I'd corner you on this podcast, is that someone like myself who already believes in the concept, I'd love to be able to offer an introductory session or 2 sessions or something to the people that I think I know, because I get to know these people probably too much. I'm that kind of guy. I get to know all the things. Yeah. But there's certain people I'm like, that would be a neat thing for me to offer them. And only the ones who will take me up on it will do it. Yeah. But I'm like, that would be a neat way to say, I already believe in it. It's local, it's here. Yes. Come and check it out. You get the first 1 or 2 on me kind of thing. And then if you have a decent retention rate, I mean, do you have success doing that? Or is that, people just do it for free sort of thing and they don't convert at that level? Or is it better to spend that time and energy on Facebook?
No, we definitely would do something like that. Yeah, we love that kind of thing. We've got different partners. We've done a little bit with Charm City Rhine. Yeah. We've done some stuff with the local massage place and things that are complementary to what we do. But yeah, we love that kind of partnership stuff. Yeah. I think that goes a long way for everybody, and we've partnered with, companies like I was looking at that do, testosterone and other supplements like that, because it can be helpful for certain people in certain situations. So, we partner with them, and then they're sending people to us as they need places to work out. And, because you can't just do one without the other. Like a really good, and I'll say this as my PSA for the day, as GLP-1s continue to be more and more popular, right? So Ozempic and that kind of thing, right? For people that don't know what a GLP-1 is. The biggest thing you have to do with those, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a great thing. It's a great tool, but you must strength train because when you lose substantial amounts of weight, it's going to take muscle mass out, and that it's just inevitable, right? You can't lose a ton of weight and not lose some muscle mass, but you want to keep that to the bare minimum possible because that muscle mass is the metabolic engine that's going to keep the weight off, right? And so it is so incredibly important. No matter where you do it, you have to strength train if you're going to be on a GLP-1. It's so important. That is like something we talk to a lot of different people about because the thought is, well, I could just go on this and I'll lose the weight, and you will. That's great. But you're probably not going to feel very good, and you're not going to be able to keep it off unless you have that muscle mass.
Right. No, like I said, my wife's a dietitian. I've heard all about it. So she has the cautionary tale. She thinks I think that initial wave of it's right for everybody, everyone should be on it. I think we might have passed that maybe initial thought process where some people are a little more cautious because guess what? You have to be on it for life. And so for some people, it does make sense. It'll change your life. It's exactly what you need. But she thinks it's been overprescribed. She's very cautious in her recommendations for people to consider it because she deals with this all day. People are in some version of that journey when she's with them. And
that makes sense.
And so she is very cautious in her recommendations. So I know some people, I even had a client who I sold a home to. She is a nurse practitioner and she writes hundreds of scripts of that. That's all she does. It's just a cash cow. And she's writing it as fast as they walk in the door.
Yep.
And she told me all about it. She can do a pop-up clinic and write scripts to everybody and then get the refill business. And I go, whoa, I used to push drugs, right? I worked in the pharmaceutical world. I'm like, wow, that sounds wild. And she's like, they have to be on it for life. I get all those refills and I go back to that same pop-up. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, boy, this sounds maybe potentially overprescribed. And then you look at the income. I should have stayed with Lilly. Their stock nowadays. Holy smokes. That's who I used to work for. I used to sell Axiron. So I actually used to sell testosterone. So I used to have these conversations with some people. And very different. It's a lot easier to talk about real estate.
Probably more fun too.
For me, it's my personality. I get to talk about the numbers, which as you can tell, that's what I enjoy. But either way, so getting back to Alloy, I just am so fascinated about, what is the typical budget you have to prepare for if someone wanted to invest in this somewhere else in the country? Do they give you an idea as to your initial amount?
All franchises are required to do what they call an FDD, and then there's different sections in there. And one of the sections is very clear to say this is what your expected investment should be. Now, it's a wide range because, to your point, it really depends, right, on
the build out and everything else.
Yeah, the build out's going to be very different, right? So if you start with a cold dark shell versus something that was pretty close, does it have bathrooms already? So that's going to drive a lot of the different costs. The other thing is that we start our employees before we even open, well in advance of opening. So there's some cost structure there, and then buying the equipment and all the things you need to be successful, signs, everything's expensive more than you think.
Yeah, everything. So is this one of the more affordable options? I've looked at SaladWorks and I've looked at some of these others, and they seem to be about $75 to $150. Those are the ones I looked at, and then some were wildly more expensive than that. But you have all this equipment. Do they give you a general ballpark? Normally on their website they tell you.
Yeah, I think the general ballpark's between $350 to $500. We were on the upper end of that.
Wow, that's so much more than a lot of these franchises.
Yeah. It's not the equipment per se. I think it's, a lot of it's the build out.
Wow.
Right?
They didn't do some kind of sweetheart deal if you sign a 10-year lease, or did you not sign that long of a lease?
Ours is 5, but yeah, no. And I thought it was fair. We worked through it and all that. It's the, so I no complaints about that, but it's all a balancing act, right? With commercial, right? What are you going to pay per month? What are you going to get for your build out? And then
you also have an amazing location.
Yeah.
You are straight on the corner of a busy road.
Yes.
Visibility with bright yellow alloy. You couldn't be more visible.
Yeah. So let me tell you the funny story, since real estate's kind of your world, that happened with that. So before I even signed up for the franchise, about a day and a half before, I saw that space and said, I want it. This is it. I know it. This is what I want. I knew enough about Alloy to know that was the right one. And so my broker said, great, I'll reach out to them. We reached out. They said, we don't want you. And
you're not the tenant we want?
Yeah, because everybody thinks, gym, right? Lots of parking. You're going to need a lot of parking. You're going to, it's a lot of noise. It's people coming and going. And so their impression of a gym just said, no, you're not the right fit for us.
Right.
And so we looked and looked and looked, and I kept bugging my broker, who's a good friend of ours. I was like, can you call them again? He'd try and not get through. And then finally, we were able to get a meeting to say, like, hey, we're not like everybody else. This isn't your typical gym. We limit it to 6 people per session. So we're not using a lot of parking. We're, it's quiet. We're not blasting music. Nobody's on a microphone. We're doing personal training here. And so they finally took the meeting. We brought, a consultant from our franchise, to help, who could speak to, hey, here's what other tenants or other landlords have found and all that kind of thing. And eventually they were like, okay, we'll give you a shot. And so we finally got the space. But yeah, I was really thankful because that was the only space I found that I really, really loved.
I think it's a perfect location for visibility to get that first set of memberships, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw you instantly. Granted, I work next door, but still, I think I have a little teeny sign. You should see my sign. I have one next to you, but mine's like the little teeny baby sign, and you get the big sign.
Yeah, on the
But
corners.
still, people see my little sign, so it's a very busy spot.
Yes.
And so it certainly probably, I think, works out well. And so I'm glad you found the spot in general. So, I mean, are you considering other options now that you have one and now you're a veteran of the process?
Yeah, we have the license for Ellicott City as well. So we are looking for space down there. Market's very tight, from a retail perspective. If you need office space, there's a lot available. But in terms of retail at our footprint, we just having trouble finding something that would work for us. And, to your point, I feel like we got really lucky. Our space here is, very well lit, a lot of windows. It's wide open.
Safe. I go in there early in the morning with everybody else. You feel totally safe. And because that safety is a key consideration because you have wide hours.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we feel great about it. So now we're still looking for number 2. That's a little bit harder movement.
Well, Ellicott City is a great market. That's where I'm from. I'm from that Howard County area. And so I think you'll do quite well out there. And I would imagine your demographic for the folks that are interested in personal training, we already discussed 40 and older. I mean, do you have a breakdown as to typical? I would imagine everyone that I work out with is relatively successful and they're health conscious. So I think do you have a demo that you guys typically say that you
Yeah, you nailed
attract?
it, right? Yeah. I mean, you effectively, it's an investment, so it's not, not everybody's going to be able to afford that. Yeah. So you have to, usually to your point, it's going to be somebody over 40, somebody who's, usually been pretty successful and, and then wants to be healthier.
Yeah.
Right. So you nailed it.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. So, I mean, is this going to be the only franchise now that you understand franchises? Are you going to keep your eyes open for other avenues or parallels, or are you going to stick to this for now?
Yeah, I mean, unless something, tragic happened in my corporate job, then I would have to consider it. But otherwise, no, this is it, keeps us busy and, I joke around that this is my hobby now, right? Because this is when, I'm working a ton of hours at my corporate job, but then, on weekends or something, I'll help out here. And, sometimes it's 9:00 at night and I'm going to the gym to mop it.
Yeah.
And my wife's doing the same thing. She's there full time. And, we believe from a leadership perspective to, not ask anybody to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. So we're the ones cleaning the bathroom, mopping the floors, and our trainers help too. But, we chip in on all that stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, actually, I heard about that you were cleaning the floors and doing all the things. So it does get around. So that's to your point. But I do have people if you need some help. I do have to prep listings for a living. So if you ever need a pinch, you got me now. So I can help you.
Oh, good. Yeah. We did finally hired a cleaning company that comes in on the weekends, but they're not living up yet to my wife's standard.
I have some wonderful
that gym
people.
is super clean.
It is shockingly clean, and I'm like crawling on it in the morning, so I would know. And that's even just the mats are just really clean, like everything. Because otherwise, everyone who's been to a gym knows how disgusting they can be.
Yeah, no, we're sanitizing between. I mean, and my wife's pretty obsessive about keeping it really clean to the point where, as you know, all the towels are perfectly in a pyramid with the line of the towel all lined up on each of them. I put one backward, way backwards once, and
she let you know about it.
Yeah, we got that fixed.
Excellent. So I always want to go and kind of wrap it up a little bit in the financial thing, because when folks come to me, usually they have a job. They have a corporate job. They're successful. Oftentimes they have money and it's sitting in a brokerage account earning, which is shocking, but maybe not to everybody. But most people I speak to could have substantial investments in brokerage accounts that earn very little. Some are only earning zero. Mm-hmm. I've seen clients that have millions of dollars in their checking account. I don't want to point out exactly who, but there's someone in one of the directions adjacent to this home that I've sold in this neighborhood that is in the millions in their checking. I know because they bought a home in cash, and I was like, why do you have that in your checking account?
Right.
I don't know where to put it. I'm like, oh my God. So why did you choose this route rather than just putting it into another investment vehicle? Is it purely because part of it has to be monetary, I would imagine. It's not just we want to improve the community, right? You want a return, you're a business person. Or like, I would just want to get into your mind a little bit, because that's what people ask me. They come and that's why I wanted to talk to someone who does a franchise. Some people have a dream of a franchise, but they don't know where to start. That's why you said a franchise consultant might be where you can start.
Yes.
But I have a podcast on that. Listen to that one, folks. So from your perspective, why didn't you just give the money to somebody and say, give me 10%? Or whatever the number is. Is it's more attractive in terms of returns this way?
No.
Or is it?
I think it's easier, right? I could have, if that money had just sat where it was, it would have been fine. We would have made great returns. No, I think this gave us, fulfilled a dream, right? Like, I think there's a time where you just have to say, I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm going to, take my chance, take my shot, right? Like I've been working with small business owners almost my entire career, helping them and always thinking like, wow, I would love to do that. And, finally I was like, all right, this is my chance to take that shot. And, because I've worked hard over a long career, I was in a position to be able to do it and afford the franchise fee and all those things. And, but, I really think more than anything, it was, I always wanted this and I needed to give it that shot and just see. And it would have been probably easier and may someday prove out. I don't know how it'll prove out economically, which one will be better. That'll take a few more years to figure that out. But, and then there's one other piece to it, right? The CEO of my corporate company always says, if you, and gets it from Brian Tracy, I believe, if you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want.
Sure.
Right. And I think there's an opportunity for me to do things for, my employees and help them to get what they want. And, I'd love to be in a position where eventually they become owners. Right. And, whether that's I sell a small portion to them, whether I sell the whole thing to them someday, whatever that looks like. Because the path forward for a trainer is really tough. It's not easy. And many of them dream of becoming owners, but it's hard to get there. But if you were running one already and you're already successful and, you're taking over, that's a different conversation with somebody trying to finance it. So I think there's an opportunity there as well.
Well, and I think this theme of fulfillment is going to be more valuable if you want to believe what's going to happen to money and to the scale of the economics of the future. So I'm big into AI. You don't know my nerdiness quite yet, but I look in the future, in the looking glass, if you will, in the next 10 to 20 years, what Elon says about money in 20 years? It's irrelevant. So if you want, that's the extreme example.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the money doesn't matter. Don't even save. Like literally he said that. And people say, oh, that's easy to say when you're the richest person in the world.
Right.
But also, that's the extreme example that money will have less value in goods and services, and energy eventually goes close to zero. And so when you have more bots than you do people, I believe the fundamental, and now, by the way, what I just said eventually will be a version of truth. Now, it might not be 20 years, but at some point, a version of that will come true where work won't be anything like what it is now. We have language models today. That's the easiest. Real world is going to be next. That's when your trainer you hire, you can have a trainer per person. That's a bot that's inexpensive that will watch you and has what's going to happen in 10 years? Who knows? Yeah. But I think fulfillment is the first thing that we're going to all lose, because I am fulfilled by my occupation. That's why I don't need a hobby, is because I actually love what I do. I almost think it's a game in a weird way. Like, I gamify it. I think I'm excellent at it. So I get fulfillment personally because I think I'm really good at it. And so I don't dread it. Right. And so it's not the same to me. But if I didn't, like, if that was taken away from me, what the hell do I do? Like, that's a real concern. And I think it's really intelligent that you're fulfilling a dream and a passion, because I think, I don't know what, like, a lot of people have never had the courage to do it. And I give you all the kudos to say that you actually stepped out there and did it, because there's so many people that think about it and never take the first step. And I think that's remarkable. I think we should celebrate people that take chances and celebrate. Everybody thinks you're greedy. If you become successful at this, then you're going to be hated. Isn't that a weird way? But that is almost true.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that. I hope not.
It's weird. With success comes certain levels of resentment, and the people that are your champion as you're growing will no longer be your champions upon success. And I've seen it with some other people that have been successful in my little world, and it's really fascinating. Yeah. But I did not expect you to say what you said. So in terms of fulfillment being the main driving factor.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's a lot of, thought process around just saying yes sometimes. And, I'm not a big risk taker. That's the funniest part. Like, I'm very risk averse. Yeah. I have a hard time with risk. This was a big move for me. But, and in some ways, maybe there's a hedge, right? Like, God forbid anything ever happened in my corporate job, I have this other thing that I do, right? And so there's a little bit of a hedge of risk when you think of it that way. But ultimately, normally I'm not a big risk taker, but, you say, okay, I really have wanted to do this. Like I said, I read a franchise book when I was 17 and sort of said, like, it's been in the back of my mind. An interesting exercise, I've actually done this with a couple of my sales teams, where you write down 101 wishes, and the first 20, 30 come to you really, really quickly. Right. But the more you get into it deep, and the whole thought exercise in it is to do it like ridiculous. Like, I want to go to the moon, right? Which sounds completely unfathomable at the moment. But then sometimes you look at it and you go, oh, well, I sort of achieved that just in a way I never thought of before, right? Or something like that, right? But I've done that with a couple sales teams, and the crazy part was, in one case, the guy wrote down, I really want to own a donut shop. So he quit working with me, opened a donut shop down in North Carolina, and he's doing great. It's called Wake and Bake down in North Carolina. And
does he sell everything?
Yeah. And he was a great rep. But then another guy said, I really want to perform in front of an audience. And at a sales kickoff kind of event, he performed. And now he goes around all over Baltimore County performing. His name's Jamie Bishop. You can find him.
Magoobies?
What's that?
Magoobies Joke House, possibly?
No, I'm sorry, performing music.
Oh, I thought he might be a comedian. Yeah. Okay.
No, so you'll find him at like Mucho Gusto and Looney's and places like that. And I mean, it was a big dream of his that came out of writing that down. So on my list, one of the things was, own a business. And so when I have a chance to achieve those things that were on the list or do something like that, I try to say yes. And sometimes I don't even remember I wrote it down, but just the act of writing it down often propels me to do something. And I'll be like, I just feel like I got to do that. And then I look back at the list, I'm like, oh my God, I
don't think a lot of people, at least that I guess I should speak for myself, I never would have thought a franchise. When I think of own a business, to me, it's like, I grew up on a dairy farm, and my father and mother owned and operated their own business. They had a little, milk shipping company. And he would have a Mack truck, and I remember as a kid, get in there and he'd run the routes or first thing in the morning, pick up all the milk. So I grew up in an environment where that was normal.
Right.
And we never worked for anyone. And I felt like a piece of my soul got kicked in when I took a job and reported to somebody. I don't know how to describe it other than I felt if my dad was around, I think he'd be disappointed. And it always ate at me.
Yeah.
And so I was very eager to get out of the corporate environment because I did not grow up in that. And I always say, I know all of my expenses for the next 3 to 6 months. I have no idea what my income will be.
Right.
So I salivate over a franchise model where there's a path and there's recurring income streams and certain level of, there's no such thing as certainty, but certain level of it. And so I think you might be risk adverse, but you did a very, I think, sound investment, one that has some legs to it.
Yeah, I think if you're going to start a business, is probably the safest way to do it, right?
Of course.
And, and there's a lot of things I didn't have to figure out, right? I didn't have to go searching for ad agencies. They gave me 2 or 3, said interview these 2 or 3,
right.
Meet them, find out what they're all about. So, there's a lot of shortcuts to, they've already figured it out. You don't have to go figure that portion out.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. So I don't want to take you up any more of your time. We already chatted for an hour. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
My goodness, time flies. So I just want to thank you once again for joining me. And anybody that's listening, make sure you check out the gym. You can work out with me if you feel like getting up that early. But Alloy Fitness has been, I don't know, I think it's a great addition for me. I have no intention of switching anymore. So I'm grateful that you managed to pop something up so close to where I live and work. So I appreciate it. And hopefully you can find that Ellicott City location. Any other spots after that you're eyeing up?
We'll have to see after that. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll pump the brakes. So maybe Ellicott City, guys, you might have another opportunity. So thanks, Bill, for joining me, and I wish you all the success.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thanks. And big thank you to our sponsor, First Home Mortgage. You can check them out at firsthome.com.